Sew a reusable grocery bag. So handy to always have in your car. Rectangle size is 19 inches wide by 37 inches long. The length is going to be the front and the back of the bag. It's created out of one piece of fabric. The pockets, of course, will be separate pieces of fabric. Cut 2 pockets, each of them 7 inches wide by 8 inches long. We're making the pockets have the lines going the opposite way. Bring your fabric to the ironing board. Press in 1/2 inch on each short edge and then fold over again 1.5 inches. That creates a clean finishing at the top edge of each end of the bag. Repeat by the pockets. Press in 1/2 inch at the top edge of each pocket and then fold over again 1 inch at that same top edge of each pocket. Now sew all of those hems in place, the pockets and both ends of the bag. By the bag, sew the top edge also. That will reinforce it. It will also make it look more uniform with the stitches in the correct places. Take your bag and find the center. We want to place our pockets centered between the two sides. Find the centers of the pockets as well. Place each pocket 2 inches from the top edge and centered between the two sides. The sides of the pockets and the bottom, they are right now raw edges. Only the top of the pocket has a clean finish. The webbing, which will be used as the straps, will cover the sides and the bottom. Now, baste the sides and the bottom in place. You can use large stitches. These are not the final stitches that will hold the pocket in place. Cut your webbing 48 inches long. Our webbing is 1.5 inches wide and 48 inches long. We need 2 pieces, 2 straps. Fold it, bring the raw edges together, and sew them close to the edge. Now create a French seam. Flip it the other way and sew again, encasing those raw edges inside. So now we only have clean edges. Bring your strap to cover the edges of the pocket. Bring the seam of the strap so that it's right along one of the folds. Make sure your straps are equidistant from the sides of the bag. We want both straps to have the same distance from the sides of the bag. Check us out at thesewpro.com. Never touch the sewing machine? Perhaps you're an advanced sewist? We have courses for everyone. Now let's sew our straps in place. We need to sew all the edges. You'll keep pivoting at every corner. At the bottoms, reinforce them. You can go over it a few times. That would be okay. Make sure you catch every corner. We're sewing all along the edges. When we pivot, the needle must be down when you raise your presser foot. At the top, sew an X shape. This X shape reinforces the webbing at the top of the bag. The top of the bag is a stress point. You pull on it when you hold that bag. Having a lot of stitches there reinforces that area. Sewing an entire X shape at the top puts a lot of reinforcement at the top of the bag, at the stress point. There's our X. Repeat all of that for your second strap. Make sure to subscribe to our videos so you don't miss any notification of a new free video. Our straps are on. Our pockets are on. We are now ready to sew the sides. We'll be sewing this with French seams, so first bring it wrong sides together. Sew the 2 sides at a very narrow seam allowance. Wrong sides together so we see the good side now while we're sewing. If you have any edges that are fraying, trim them off, and then turn the bag the wrong way. So now we are good sides together. That's how you sew a French seam. Your raw edges are completely encased. Give this a press so that when you get to the machine, it won't be difficult to bring your seam exactly to the center of the fold. We will now sew a second seam, deeper in than the first seam. This seam will encase the raw edges, and this is being sewn good sides together, so we see the raw edges, like we usually do when we sew. Now the two sides are sewn. Time for the corners. Bring your bag good side out. We'll be doing French seams again. This method of sewing a bag is so easy, so practical, and so fun. It's super easy to make these reusable grocery bags. It's handy to have them in your car, wherever you may find yourself. Just put whatever you need inside and carry it along. Okay, corners time. Put the bag sideways. Bring each of the side seams to each other. Let's do one corner at a time. So fold one out of the way. Pin it so that the seam is in the center of the fold here. And then draw a line about 3 inches long. So bring your ruler as high up as it needs to be until you reach a 3-inch long line. Repeat for the second corner. Now sew along that line. We see the good side of the fabric since, once again, we're doing French seams, so we first sew this with the good side showing. Now trim off your seam allowance. Leave just a little bit of extra fabric there for a narrow seam allowance that will be encased in the French seam. Next, turn your bag wrong side out. Now we're good sides together. We're good sides in the sandwich, and we can complete that French seam. And check out those corners that you made. Lay this all flat and sew your French seam. Aren't those lovely corners so easy to create, even though the whole fabric was one piece of fabric to begin with? Your bag is complete. Turn this good side out. Point out those corners. And please marvel at your handiwork that you just made. We have those pockets on both sides of the bag and a super handy grocery bag.